Your backyard can feed more wildlife than a strip of lawn ever will. Replace even one sunny corner with tough Midwest prairie natives, and that quiet patch can become a working buffet for bees, butterflies, hummingbirds, and seed-eating birds. The plants in this list are not delicate garden divas. Once their roots settle in, many handle blazing heat, winter cold, heavy clay, dry spells, and a little neglect. We will move through 15 native workhorses, from early color to summer powerhouses, and the final few keep blooming into fall, right when pollinators are running out of options. Purple coneflower is often the easiest prairie native to recognize. Purple petals, a raised orange cone, and blooms that can carry through much of summer. Plant it where it gets full sun, in ordinary garden soil, and it will usually handle dry spells once established, without constant fussing over water or fertilizer. The flowers draw bees and butterflies right to the center cone, making it easy to watch pollinators at work from a patio or kitchen window. If you leave the spent seed heads standing after bloom, goldfinches will pick through them like tiny living ornaments. For a first prairie planting, this one proves native plants can be colorful, tough, and busy with wildlife. Next, we go taller and bolder, with a plant tied directly to monarch energy. Swamp milkweed is one of the most garden-friendly ways to help monarchs, because milkweeds are host plants for monarch caterpillars. Adult butterflies sip the nectar, monarch females lay eggs on the leaves, and the young caterpillars need that foliage to grow. In summer, it sends up rounded clusters of pink flowers with a soft vanilla-like fragrance. Bees work the blooms, butterflies visit often, and the upright stems fit neatly into a sunny border. Do not let the name scare you into thinking it needs a swamp. It shines in moist soil, rain gardens, and low spots that stay damp after storms. Give it sun and steady moisture, and it becomes a polished monarch plant for a backyard prairie. Next comes bold yellow color built for serious heat. That heat-ready yellow is black-eyed Susan, a tough native with golden daisy-like petals around dark brown centers. In midsummer, it gives a young prairie planting instant color, especially in sunny spots where slower perennials are still sizing up. It is adaptable in average soil, handles dry spells once established, and is usually straightforward to grow from seed. Tuck it into open spaces, and it helps bridge the awkward first years of a new bed. Bees and butterflies work the blooms through summer, and if you leave the seed heads standing, finches can pick at them later in the season. After all that gold, the next plant brings a cooler note, a blue-flowered prairie native that changes the whole mood. That cooler note comes from wild bergamot, a native mint with lavender-pink blooms that look almost shaggy, draped around rounded flower heads. Brush the leaves and you get that clean, spicy, oregano-like fragrance that tells you it belongs in the mint family. In a sunny prairie-style border, wild bergamot adds height without feeling heavy, and it usually spreads politely enough to fill gaps rather than take over. Average soil is fine, especially if drainage is decent. The payoff is traffic. Bees crowd the tubular flowers, butterflies stop in for nectar, and hummingbirds may swing through when the patch is in full bloom. Next, keep an eye out for a plant that looks fragile but stands up to prairie heat, drought, and wind. That delicate look belongs to prairie dropseed, a native grass that forms tidy, fountain-shaped clumps of thread-fine leaves. In the slightest breeze, the foliage moves like water, so it gives a planting motion without blocking the flowers around it. This is where prairie gardens stop being just a flower show. Grasses give beneficial insects cover, nesting pockets, and overwintering habitat in the stems and crowns. Leave the clumps standing through winter, and they also hold the bed together with warm tan color and seed head texture. Once established, prairie dropseed handles full sun, dry spells, and lean soil with very little fuss. Coming up next is a plant with unmistakable orange firepower, and pollinators find it fast. Butterfly weed is the orange firepower promised. Its clusters of bright tangerine blooms sit on compact stems, so they pop in hot, sunny beds without needing rich soil or constant watering. This is a true milkweed, which means monarch butterflies can use it as a host plant for caterpillars. At the same time, the nectar draws adult butterflies, bees, and other pollinators, making one plant work both as nursery and feeding station. Give butterfly weed full sun and sharply drained soil. It develops a deep taproot, so plant it where you want it and leave it alone. Established plants resent being dug up or shifted. Next, the scale changes completely with a towering late summer native that brings strong vertical structure to the prairie bed. That towering native is Joe-Pye weed, a late summer giant that can rise 6 to 8 feet when it has good moisture. Its broad, mauve-pink flower clusters sit high above the foliage, so it works like a living backdrop at the rear of a bed. Those fuzzy-looking blooms are loaded with nectar. Butterflies often gather on them in groups, while bees, beetles, and other beneficial insects move through the clusters for weeks. Use Joe-Pye weed where it has room to stretch, especially along a moist border, rain garden, ditch edge, or naturalized corner. In a small, dry bed, it can feel oversized and stressed. Next, the height drops, but the color shifts into a completely different prairie note. Smooth blue aster brings the prairie down to knee or waist height, with clean stems and clouds of blue-purple daisies, just when many summer flowers are running out of steam. That timing is why to grow it. Native bees work the yellow centers hard, butterflies stop for late nectar, and migrating pollinators get one more dependable meal before cold nights tighten the season. Plant it in full sun with average to dry soil, and give it neighbors that can hold it upright if your soil is rich. It looks especially natural woven through grasses, where the flowers float instead of forming a solid block. For the classic fall prairie combination, pair those cool asters with goldenrods. That golden partner is next, because it has been blamed for the wrong problem. Showy goldenrod earns its place because it blooms when the pollinator calendar is getting thin. Those upright golden plumes are packed with tiny flowers, so bees, butterflies, small wasps, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects can feed from late summer into fall. It also deserves a pardon. Goldenrod pollen is heavy and sticky, meant to ride on insects, not drift through the air. The sneezy season is usually ragweed, which blooms at the same time and releases light, wind-borne pollen. For a garden, choose clumping, showier species rather than the hard-running goldenrods you see taking over roadsides and old fields. Give showy goldenrod full sun and well-drained average soil. Then pair it with asters and little bluestem. Next comes a deep-rooted prairie giant with dramatic yellow flowers that can anchor the whole bed. That deep-rooted prairie giant is compass plant, a plant that makes a prairie bed feel ancient. In summer, it sends up tall flower stalks above the foliage, carrying yellow, sunflower-like blooms pollinators can spot from across the garden. At the base, the leaves are deeply cut, almost ferny, and often align north to south, which gives the plant its name. Underground, compass plant builds a massive taproot that can reach many feet down. That root is prairie toughness in plant form, helping it handle heat, dry spells, and lean soil once established. Give it full sun and room. It fits larger beds, meadow edges, and sunny slopes where it can mature over time. For the same golden prairie energy in a tighter space, switch to a compact coneflower relative. Little bluestem is the grass that makes a prairie planting look alive even when nothing is blooming. In summer, its upright blades carry a blue-green cast, then shift into copper, orange, and burgundy as cold weather arrives. Those fine stems do more than add color. Native insects use little bluestem for food and shelter. Birds pull pieces for nesting material, and the standing clumps give cover through winter instead of leaving the bed bare. Plant it in full sun with lean, well-drained soil. Once established, it handles dry spells beautifully, which makes it a strong choice for low-water gardens and tough curbside spots. Next, bring in a flower with spiky texture and non-stop pollinator traffic. Blazing Star sends up tight purple wands that open from the top down, so each spike looks lit at the tip before the color moves lower. That bloom pattern gives a garden the straight, rhythmic lines you see in real prairie plantings. The flowers are built for traffic. Monarchs, swallowtails, native bees, and smaller nectar feeders work the spikes for days, often clustering on the same stem while new buds continue opening. Plant Blazing Star in full sun and match the species to your soil. Some handle average garden beds, while others prefer sandy or sharply drained ground, but good drainage is the safe rule for most backyard plantings. Next, soften those vertical spikes with airy texture and medicinal-looking prairie charm. Rattlesnake Master looks like it wandered in from a desert, but it is true prairie. Its stiff, sword-shaped leaves are silver green, edged with little teeth, and the round white flower heads sit on branching stems like botanical ornaments. Those golf ball blooms are busier than they look. Small native bees, tiny wasps, flower flies, beetles, and other beneficial insects crash crowd in for nectar and pollen, including pollinators that specialize in this plant. Give it full sun and do not pamper it. Once established, rattlesnake master handles dry spells, lean soil, and tough meadow-style plantings where softer perennials flock. Coming up, a native with clean white flowers that can make a planting feel both wild and intentionally designed. Wild quinine is the prairie plant that makes white feel strong, not delicate. Its broad leaves form a sturdy base, then upright stems carry tight clusters of tiny white flowers that read as clean, bright texture from a few steps away. It blooms for weeks in full sun, holding its shape through heat and dry spells without needing staking. Tuck it between purple coneflower, blazing star, or golden sunflower, and it gives those louder prairie colors a crisp place to rest. The flower heads draw bees, flower flies, tiny wasps, and other beneficial insects, especially in sunny native borders or meadow plantings with lean soil. Next, the finale arrives when much of the garden is fading, a late-season native that turns autumn into a pollinator event gardeners can watch for weeks. That late-season native is New England aster. By early to mid-fall, sturdy stems carry masses of vivid purple, daisy-like flowers, each with a bright yellow center, often so many that the green foliage nearly disappears. That timing makes it more than a pretty finale. When many summer flowers are finished, New England aster keeps nectar available for native bees, butterflies, and migrating monarchs moving through the yard on their way south. Give it full sun and room for its upright prairie habit. If it gets taller than you want, cut it back once in early summer to make a shorter, bushier plant with more flowering tips. And that is the open loop closed. A backyard prairie works when something is blooming from spring through fall. Start with 3 to 5 plants that fit your site: sun, moisture, and space. Choose an early bloomer, a summer workhorse, and a fall finisher. Then mix heights so pollinators can find food in layers. Leave hollow stems and seed heads through winter when you can. Thanks for watching. Comment with the Midwest native you would plant first, and subscribe for more native garden ideas.